We are in April and it is snowing. This is a sick and cruel joke. But no, I mean it's not that uncommon to see snow, at least where I live in April. But anyway, we're not going to talk about snow. There I am. Hello. But we're not going to talk about snow. What we're going to talk about is this. This is a machine that I have had for, gosh, I want to say about a year. And I've never made a video on it, so here it is. This is the infamous Macintosh PowerBook 5300 series. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with older Apple products, the 5300 was, and is often considered to be, one of the worst products that has ever came out of Cupertino. The 5300 had all kinds of problems, ranging from logic board issues, plastic fractures, cracks, failures with the plastics, design limitations, and battery fires. This is often considered to be one of the worst Apple products of all time, and I own one. So kind of a funny story here was I was not actually looking to buy a 5300. What ended up happening was I was just looking for a classic Mac, like a pre-Mac OS 10, I'd say a pre-G3 Mac. That's what I was looking for, because I wanted to have a vintage Mac to run a lot of my vintage Mac software and games. And so I ended up picking this up for, I think I paid $35 for it, and plus a little bit for shipping. Now, it stated it worked, which it showed it worked, and it showed it booted up. But this machine has a problem, which I'll show you, which is part of the reason why I haven't made a video on it, because I don't exactly know what's wrong with it. I think I might have an idea, which I will explain. So, as you can see here, the 5300 obviously has the fancy Apple 6-color Apple logo there. I don't understand where all this dust came from here, but anyway, the machine itself is in overall good shape. There's a few scratches and scuffs on it, but the machine itself, for being a machine that was launched in 1990, I think 5, I believe is when this machine was launched, in 1995, it's in overall really good shape for its age. So let's take you on a tour of the machine here. So first of all, around the front, we really don't have anything. This is just the button for the trackpad there, nothing on the front here. As we take you around to the right side here, we have the battery. The battery on this is completely dead, and it has an issue which I'll show you about in a second. This machine was actually Apple's first product to use a multi-bay, which means that this floppy drive comes out and you can put other things in here, which could be a zip drive. I don't believe this machine supports a dual battery configuration, which means you can run 2 batteries side by side. I don't believe this machine supports that, but you know, you could put a floppy drive in here, a zip drive, but there is no space for a CD-ROM drive. The multi-bay is too small. So that was another critical thing that this machine had, was the fact that it could not support internal CD-ROM drives. You had to use external via the SCSI port, which is located on the back. Speaking of the back, here it is. We have the infrared port right here for cameras. We have the infamous port door, which is still intact, hasn't broken off. And here we have the Apple monitor port here. I don't understand where all this dust came from. It's pretty dirty in there. I don't know where all that came from, but anyway, it's like dust or something. I don't know what that is. But here we have, whoa, we went out of focus. There we go. We have the Apple monitor port there. I don't have the adapter for that. We have microphone and headphone, HDI 30 SCSI. Yeah, we have Apple Serial as well. So these are the connections on it. There was no built-in Ethernet, no built-in networking of any kind. There's not even a modem, but you can use PCMCIA cards that will give you networking in terms of Ethernet. Whoops, there goes the power cord. But in terms of Ethernet, and I believe somebody had put a wireless card in here at one point, and here is the dual PCMCIA slots, and I believe that these PCMCIA slots are automatic, which means when you go to eject something that's in the PCMCIA card slots, the card will actually pop out of the slot automatically when you drag the mounted card to the trash. So let's talk about, and obviously we have the latch here, so let's open it up here. And this machine is really in good shape on the inside. There I am. Hello. And you see me flexing my new Apple Watch. I've actually made the video on this Apple Watch, come to think of it, right here. But I still need to finish editing it. So that'll be coming eventually when I finish editing. But this is the internal of the machine here. It's got a nice keyboard here along with the trackpad. A display. Now this is a 5300 CS. There were a couple different models of the 5300. There was the standard 5300, there was the 5300C, there was the 5300 CS, and then the top of the line model was the CE. I don't exactly remember what the differences are between the models, but I think the main difference was, I think the LCD display was different in terms of the overall technology, and I believe the processor speed was a little bit faster on these upper end models, I think. But anyway, this is a nice machine inside. The display has gone a little discolored from age. We have here the brightness and contrast controls, which do work, and we have the power standby sleep light right there. And actually, if we flip the machine over, you can see here, if I set the camera down here for a second, what's very odd is that I went to using a tripod for a couple of years, and now I don't have a tripod anymore, so we're back to holding the camera. But you can see here, but hey, you know what? If you came to this channel for quality content, you came to the wrong place. But you can see these little buttons right here on the side. This is for the feet that are on the bottom. So this machine has the same feet that a lot of the older PowerBooks had, where you could prop the machine up a little bit, which gave you a better typing angle for when you're typing. Now, originally the pop-out feet was originally put on the PowerBooks because on the old PowerBooks, the 50, like the PowerBook 190, and not the PowerBook 190, but the PowerBook 170, and the PowerBook Duos, the feet actually were covers for things like the modem port. So they also worked as covers. Now, the problems with this particular machine are as follows. There's something wonky going on with the latch. So when I open it, it opens just fine, but when I go to close it, it's supposed to automatically latch. Well, you can see it doesn't. You have to move the latch over for it to lock in place. So there's something wonky going on with that. Now to show you about the battery. The 5300 was originally supposed to use lithium-ion batteries. And speaking of the battery, to get things out of the multi-bay and the battery, there's a little latch here that you push in. I may have to open it here. The 5300 was originally supposed to use lithium-ion batteries, which I believe would have been Apple's first portable machine to use a lithium-ion battery. Well, the problem is the lithium-ion battery caught on fire. There were two known battery fires with the 5300. One was in the factory, and one was actually at a Apple employee's home while he was using it. It was a test machine he was using, and the battery caught on fire. So Apple recalled those batteries. Now, fortunately, none of the batteries got out into the public, but Apple issued a recall on them, and instead of using a lithium-ion battery, they used a nickel metal hydride battery. The problem with nickel metal hydride batteries is when they age, they do what? They leak. If you answered that, ding, 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 you get a gold star. So unfortunately, every 5300, and there was another model of PowerBook very similar to this called the 190. It was very similar to the 5300, except it was a little bit of a lower end machine. Every PowerBook 190 and 5300 is going to have a leaking battery. That's just the end of it. I mean, you know, nickel metal hydride batteries, they're going to leak, and when they leak, this happens. So you can see that at some point in this machine, this is a genuine Apple PowerBook rechargeable nickel metal hydride battery. This is original to the machine. But you can see what happened here. You can see that the machine was stored with the battery in place, which is a no-no. When you store computers, and this is a good tech tip here, come to think of it, when you are storing computers, anything that has a battery in it, if you're storing it, take the battery out. Even if it's lithium-ion, whatever, take the battery out if it's removable. If it is not removable and you're going to store it away, just try to take it out and try to charge it up every once in a while to prevent this from happening. And what happens with these old nickel metal hydride batteries is as the cells age, they will start to leak electrolyte, which is what all this is, and it causes corrosion. And that's what all this blue stuff is. It is battery corrosion all over the contacts. So this battery is donezo. There is no saving it. Some of these older PowerBook batteries could be rebuilt. You can see the battery has a seam. Some of the older batteries, you could split the case apart by the seam, and you could take the cells out, and you could essentially, use this case to rebuild the battery pack with fresh battery cells. Unfortunately, because the contacts are so corroded, I think chances of having the battery rebuilt at this point is pretty slim, if it was even possible at all. I know on the older PowerBook batteries, it was possible, and there's the copyright date of 1995. So that's the copyright date on the battery, but I believe this machine was launched in about 1995. So if we look inside of here, I'll try to tip the machine on its side here very gently and give you a look inside of here. You can see that right there, see that green spot right there? It's kind of hard to see. Well, let me see. Let me see if I can shine my light on it from my phone here, see if we can get a better look into the subject. There you go. You see all that corrosion in there? Let me see if I can tip it forward. I may have to stand up here. But you see right in, there you are. See that corrosion right there? That corrosion on the battery terminals and inside the battery bay is from the battery leaking. Unfortunately, you can see, we went out of focus. You can see that the corrosion has started to extend onto the logic board a little bit, which will lead me to another problem that this machine has, and I think it might be related to this. The corrosion on the motherboard does not seem excessive, but you can see that the battery terminals are corroded. There is a little bit of corrosion on the logic board. That's generally not a good sign that eventually the corrosion may extend, or it's hard to tell if the corrosion is terminal at this point, but there definitely is corrosion in there, and this is what happens when the battery leaks. And so let me just turn that flashlight off here. So unfortunately, almost every PowerBook 190 and 5300 is going to have this. There's just no way getting around it, and to prevent further damage, what I've done is I've just taken a piece of duct tape, not duct tape, but duct tape. I just put a little piece of duct tape over the battery terminals, just in case if the battery wants to continue to leak, which I don't think it will at this point. I think the cells are just too far gone at this point, but to prevent any further damage, I just put a little piece of tape on there. On to another problem with this machine, which is something that I can't figure out, but I believe it might have something to do with the corrosion on the logic board. Even though the corrosion doesn't look terrible at this point, now the machine turns on and it sounds like it's booting. You can hear the hard drive spinning up, you can hear the hard drive reading data, and it sounds like it's booting into Mac OS, which when I bought the machine, it showed it booted into Mac OS. It showed it fully working. So I'm not entirely sure what happened between the time I bought it from the time it was shipped here. I don't exactly know what happened. Now, when I bought this machine, it was in the dead of winter, and it was quite cold. So I don't know if being in a moving van where it was cold for like 3 or 4 days might have caused something to happen. I mean, I don't know. But it was shown as fully working, and now it's not. So I don't understand, and it hasn't worked since I got it, and I haven't been able to figure it out. But what happens is when I turn the machine on, the backlight comes up, the screen comes up. It sounds like it's booting, the hard drive is reading and whatnot, but all I get is a gray screen. I see no image but a gray screen. And I have posted this on a couple of different groups I'm a part of on Facebook, and I've gotten probably 35 different answers as to what the problem could be. I've had people tell me it's just the brightness settings are down too low. I've messed with the brightness and contrast controls, nothing. Some people have told me that it's a bad power connection. Something is wrong with the DC in board on the logic board. Some people have told me it's failing capacitors on the logic board. I have had so many responses to this that I just don't know what the issue is. and I'm going to show you what the machine is doing. I have to reach down and grab the power cord because I dropped it earlier, but I'll show you what this machine is doing. And hopefully any of you who have more experience maybe working on these vintage Macs than I do could try to help me with what the problem could be and if it's something I could get working. Again, this is probably not going to be a collector's item. Well, I don't want to say it's not going to be a collector's item. It's probably not going to be worth as much as it probably could be, mainly due to the corrosion. But what happens is sometimes it'll power up when you press the power button, and other times it won't. See, it won't do anything. The only way to really get it to power on when it does that is we have to flip the machine to the back, and we have to open the port door, and we have to hit the reset switch, which is right there. That's the reset switch. There we go. So after fiddling with the reset switch, I can get it to turn on. So, see, here comes the backlight. There's the hard drive spinning up. Speaking of the hard drive, this is music to my ears. You know, SSDs are great because they're fast and whatnot, but man, I miss the sound of those old rotating hard drives. That's music. But you can see basically what I get. This. Now, obviously, the screen is not as bright as it once was. Obviously, this machine is old and it's showing signs of age. Like, there's a couple of dark spots right in here. It's got, I mean, you know, the screen's not dirty. It's just that the screen is old and it's starting to not, and it's not as bright as it once was. But again, you can hear the hard drive is reading. It's obviously loading, and then eventually I get like one of the Mac OS error sounds that come up, and if I move the trackpad around, it does seem like it's doing something. So it's acting like it is booting into Mac OS, but I'm getting nothing on the internal display. This is all I get, is just a gray screen. And again, I can mess with the brightness controls, the contrast controls. I can mess with these all day long, and I will get the same thing. Nothing. Just a gray screen. So I don't know what the issue could be. My thinking at this moment is because some of that corrosion extended onto the logic board, it doesn't look terminal, but again, the problem is I don't know how to take this machine apart. Yes, I have been working on computers probably since I was in middle school. You see, there's the Mac OS sound effect. You can see when I click, it's making a sound, but if I move the trackpad, I don't hear it anymore. See? So it obviously must be booted into Mac OS, but I don't see anything. Now, that begs the question, I could plug it into, like, you know, my monitor here, but the problem is I don't have one of those Apple video cables for this. Now, I have seen them on eBay for about $10 or $15, but the problem is I don't want to buy it and then plug it in and find out that I get nothing on the external display and that, you know, the problem still persists. Because I don't want to spend $15 on a cable that I'll never use again. So it's kind of a hard call if I want to spend the 10 or 15 bucks to buy the video cable to try it on, you know, like an external display. But the problem is there's no repair guides anywhere that tells you how to take the logic board out of one of these. There are guides that show you how to do like screen replacements and keyboard replacements and hard drive replacements, but not to take the logic board out. And I don't want to take this apart unless I have a guide that shows me how to do it. And I have not seen one YouTube video, at least none that I can find. I've not seen any guides online that show you how to strip these down completely. And because I've never really worked on a Mac of this vintage before, I don't want to take it apart unless I have something to reference. So this is like my call for help. So if you have any ideas as to what would be causing this, and if you know for certain what the issue could be, please drop in the comment section down below. Because if I can get this machine to a working order where I actually have a display, I mean, the machine's probably not going to be worth a whole lot, sort of, you know, in later years, but it would be nice to have this machine working until it dies, just as a vintage Mac machine. Very quickly, what I do want to do is I want to look up the specs on this machine. So what I want to do is I want to look up the specs here on a website that is called Every Mac. a great website for any computer collector. It's called everymac.com. Has the specs on every Mac model ever made. So we're going to go to PowerBook 5300. Again, as I said, there were multiple models of the 5300. So these were all the models that were available. We had the 5300, we had the 5300C, the 5300CS, which is what this little guy is right here. And then we had the top of the line, which was the 5300CE. You can see the 5300CE, we spiked from 100 megahertz to 117 megahertz. So obviously the machine was faster. It looks like we went from 8 megabytes of RAM to 32 megabytes. And from a 500 megabyte hard drive to a 1.2 gig hard drive to the CE. And I believe the display on the CE was different. Let's see. It's a 10.4 inch color active matrix display by 800 by 600. That's the C. I want the CS, which is the model we have here. Yes, it is a 10.4 inch color dual scan display. So you can see that as the price went up, you obviously got a different display technology. And I believe the 5300 had a smaller screen. I believe. Yes, we go from, the original 5300 only had a grayscale passive matrix display. It was not even color, it was in grayscale, and it was only 9.5 inches. So that was the bottom end of the 5300 range, and then obviously the 5300CS, which is what we have here, goes up to a 10.4 inch color dual scan display. Obviously we can't shut this machine down, so I'm just gonna pull the plug, and that will be the end of the 5300. So that is the infamous PowerBook 5300CS and the 5300 series of machines. Normally when I film myself, I look a little bit more professional than this. I've shaved, I mean, obviously I shave and whatnot, but I just wanted to take a moment at the end of this video to tell you a couple things. One, at the date of making this video, it's April 10th of 2020. We are going through the current COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of people have been furloughed. Things are just, I mean, we're going through a very rough time right now, and a lot of people are kind of what we call quarantined to our houses, on lockdown. I know some countries have gone on lockdown, like total national lockdown, and it's just a very scary time and very weird time. So I just want to let you know that, you know, we're all fighting this same battle together. So, and if you work in, you know, food, service, or retail, or trucking, or whatever, if your job is considered to be essential at this point, you deserve a thumbs up for all the work that you do, trying to keep everything going. So you guys are fantastic. You know, if you work in supermarkets, or if you work in department stores, or if you're a truck driver delivering supplies, you guys are fantastic. The second thing I wanted to tell you about, which is on a more lighthearted note, is if you remember a couple of years ago, I uploaded a video called Dakota Tries Gaming, where I showed you Golden Tee Golf. Well, I've decided to take that a step further, and I'm actually getting into gaming. I've actually downloaded Fortnite onto my MacBook Pro, which I know Macs don't game very well, I know that, but I don't have another machine to game on. So I've been testing Fortnite on the MacBook Pro, and it actually runs okay once you lower the quality settings down. But I've been testing that, and I actually started a Mixer account. You know, you can follow me on Mixer. My name is Koda Playa, K-O-T-A-P-L-A-Y-A. Koda Playa. That is my screen name on Mixer, and I'm in the process of actually getting a game console. So so my plans are, within the next few months, I hope to have a game console set up in here, and to have like a little mini cheap, you know, what I call cheap, gaming setup in here, and I'll be streaming games on Mixer. Now, I suck at gaming. I'm a rookie at this, because I'm not a gamer, so please bear with me. But look for stuff on Mixer probably within a few months after I get the gaming setup going and whatnot, and I start learning more games. So you can follow me on Mixer. Also, those social media accounts, the Tweeter, the Instaface, the Snapface. The links to those are in the video description down below. And as always, thank you for watching, and stay safe.